Welcome back to the adventures of Sassy Bob. Feels pretty good to say that. You know, our game now sort of has a direction it's going in, at least an ambiance for it. So what do we want to do? Let's boot up our game here. And what we want to do is we want to start thinking about NPC interaction. And you can kind of break down NPCs into two forms. You've got static NPCs. Those are the ones who just kind of stay in the same spot somewhere in the game. And you can interact with them by kind of clicking on them, and they'll usually say the same thing over and over again. They stay static, right? Then you have the dynamic NPCs, the ones who can sometimes move around on the screen, and they have sort of a progressive dialogue, right? So that either the dialogue reveals something integral to the plot, or it at least moves the game forward in some way, and they can kind of move around the screen and whatnot. Those are dynamic ones. They can change. We're going to have both types, of course, right? And we're going to generate our NPCs via code, because that really does seem to be the best way to do this, at least for our game. And I kind of want to be clear about that. So I test out various ways of doing things before I come out with a tutorial for it. And I make the best choices that I believe satisfies the requirements of the software, GDevelop, right? That can be somewhat future-proof, right? So that we can port it over to another game we might want to make later on, that kind of thing, right? And just general efficiency, I think, as well. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't better ways to do it and there aren't different ways that you can do it. It's just one of the best ways that I can sort of see. All right, enough blathering. Let's start figuring this out, actually. So what do we want to do? Well, let's look at our external events here, right? This should be, I think, down here, right? But I think we're going to end up moving this anyway. Here's what I want to do. I want to actually... First thing I want to do is I want to create a new external event. And I'm going to call this external event Kingdom Creation. Okay, and you'll notice that that's quite similar to Kingdom Room Creation, right? And eventually we're going to have a Kingdom Collisions as well. Keep things the same so that you understand the purpose of each one. Right? The purpose of Kingdom Room Creation was to sort of establish our layout, and that's what's going to be what we're going to use Kingdom Creation for as well. So let's go ahead and open that up. Let's choose, to associate it with the kingdom. Okay, let's add an empty event. And let's go ahead and make our link here before I forget. So I'm going to right-click on our parent external event grouping, and I'm going to add another group here. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to call this Kingdom Creation. I'm going to right-click on Kingdom Creation, add a link here, and move this over. And let's go ahead and put in our new external event here. All right, good. Now, we always need a way in and a way out, right? We want to run our creation code basically one time at a certain point and then stop, right? We don't want to run it again. So we need a variable to keep track here, not just simply of getting in and out. We're actually going to use trigger once, I believe, for in and out. So let's go ahead and add that. Trigger once while true, because we only want to make the layout one time. But we're going to have multiple instances of kingdom creations. In other words, if we look at our kingdom here, we're going to have, at the beginning of our game, one layout with maybe an NPC around here and an NPC here and here. But then as we progress in the game and we have to return to the kingdom, we want a different layout, right? We want our NPCs somewhere else maybe to show that time has passed, that kind of thing. So we're going to have multiple instances of our kingdom scene, and we need a global variable to keep track of that because it needs to be seen throughout the entire project. So let's go to load game from main events, and I'm going to go to scenes, kingdom. Now we've got this scene dialog.kingdom dialog count here. I'm going to just shorten this. Now that we've moved our code over, our global variables from the GUI over to here, I feel confident in just shortening this to kingdom dialog count. And this variable I think we're going to use to keep track of any major plot point that happens. A plot point, in other words, that is important for progress for the game, as opposed to just sort of small local plot line things. All right, let's add another global variable here though. And it's a value because it's a number here. We're going to add that. And that's going to be, excuse me, shut that off. And that's going to be let's see, do I have this? All right, it's going to be kingdom current instance. And we're going to set that to 0. And that means that our current instance is going to be set to 0. Okay, so we've got this under, okay. All right, so in our load game external event, we've got our scenes grouping here, and we've got our kingdom here as well. And under kingdom dialog, we've got this scene dialog.kingdom dialog.count. I think we can shorten this one up. We don't need it to be a structure here. This is just going to keep track of any sort of large-scale plot point that has to do with the progress for our game. So we'll just keep that short and at kingdom dialog.count. But we want to add another sort of, let's see if I'll do it right here. Yeah, let's do it here. Let's add another grouping, and we'll call this kingdom mechanics. Is that how we did this here? Room layout, basic kingdom rooms. Okay, I'm going to call this one kingdom mechanics here because it's not a dialogue that we're really keeping track of here. It actually has to do with a variable to keep track of what is sort of going on, our progress in the game. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this variable here. It's a global variable value, a global variable. We're going to call it kingdom current instance. We're going to set that equal to 0. 0 will be the first instance when we start the game. And then we can change our layout based upon the changing of this instance. So let's go back to kingdom creation here, external event, and let's add our variable condition up here. global variable value kingdom current instance equals set to 0. All right, now what do we want to do? Well, we want to differentiate, I think, a little bit here from when we're creating static and dynamic NPCs. So let's go ahead and put static NPC creation. Let's copy that and paste it. And put dynamic NPC creation over here. Let's add a sub condition to this, and let's add our first static NPC. We're going to create this character via code. Now, before we do that, let's actually take a look at our kingdom layout here. Now, I thought about multiple ways to do this. Okay, multiple ways. I tried adding multiple sort of colors here. Well, let me sort of explain it this way. So I've got Bob here, right? And Bob is really nothing more than just a square, right? 64 by 64 with some circles for eyes. Okay. What I did was I created a bunch of different squares just like Bob, 3 of each color, right? I've got burgundy with eyes just normal and open. I've got eyes closed, and I've got eyes wide open, right? And all I did was change the main color of these. Pretty much it. Now I'm going to add some more to this as we go along, but right now I just have 2, okay? Rather than create multiple objects like burgundy and ice blue kind of thing, I created one townfolk object and just added the animation, right, based on the color I want. So burgundy is for the burgundy animations. 0 always equals regular eyes open, 1 always equals eyes closed, and 2 always equals eyes wide open. Right, you'll notice I've got that same thing here. Ice blue, 0, regular, 1, eyes closed, 2, eyes wide open. By doing it this way, we can actually just place any townfolk we want and change the color and change the animation fairly easily through our code. I found this to be the easiest method personally. All right, we'll see how it works in practice, but I found this to be the easiest way. So if you want, you can go ahead and just add, just bring Bob up in Paint 3D or Pascal or whatever, and just change the color, basically. All right, so that's what I did here. Let's actually go to Kingdom Creation, right? And, well, I'm trying to think if I should do this now. I think I'm going to stop there for now. And in the next tutorial, we'll actually get into the coding itself.